Hello and welcome to the Duality of Genji. Before we get started, I want to make a quick apology for not having made a video in a while. I've been extremely busy with OPC Season 2 and APAC, but I finally have a break, so let's jump into this video. There are two fighting styles that Genji has available to him. This first style is a more tactical style that I would argue most players fail to utilize, and for that matter, fail to recognize that it even exists. You can kind of imagine this style as if Genji only had the ability to wall climb and left click. That's it. It kind of sounds like a budget Hanzo. That's kind of what it would be like. He would be looking for these really annoying angles, these angles that are just right to poke at his opponents from the sides, from behind, and bring down their health bars, force them to burn cooldowns, put them in bad positions, etc. And from this, Genji can then leverage this work that he's done with this tactical stuff with this other style that we're going to talk about in a moment. But I also want to bring up the fact that a lot of times your teammates can follow up on this style of yours, this tactical style where you're poking from a distance and you're just really annoying your opponents and creating pressure that way. And then a lot of times your teammates can then leverage that pressure on their own and clean up the fight without you having to do a whole lot more. So we're going to talk about that concept a little bit more later in this video. But let's talk about Genji doing his own cleanup, which is using this brawling style. This is the style that everyone is familiar with. It's flashy. It makes the front page of Reddit. It utilizes the whole rest of his kit: the double jumps, the right clicks, the swift strikes, the deflects, the Dragonblades, etc. Everyone is very familiar with this. In this video, we're going to be focusing a little bit more on this tactical style. We're going to shed some more light on that because I think that's where a lot of Genjis struggle, where they can be a lot better if they were just a little bit more tactical, because maybe they don't have the mechanics to really back up their Genji play. So, but the key takeaway here should be that a good Genji player can utilize all of it. That's how you're going to really maximize Genji's potential. Now, that being said, there are tons of Genjis, even in the top 500, who really just focus on this, who just have super sick mechanics and they just brawl all day and they can get away with things that other Genjis cannot. So me personally, I don't have the best mechanics in the world. My mechanics are actually not that great. So I heavily rely with all my characters that I play on tactics and manipulating opponents' movements. And you're going to hopefully see that in this video. And what that's going to allow is it's going to make my brawling life easier. When I do have to commit to fights, when I do have to go in there, it's going to make that part easier. Cool. So let's make a quick comparison. Whoa. What? Sorry. Okay. Windows is being weird. Soldier 76. You can think of him as you can kind of make that comparison to Genji, where he's at that mid-range. He wants to duel at that distance and handle fights that way. He doesn't necessarily want to get up close to his opponents. Not necessarily. And then you have Reaper, who is the epitome of brawling. He wants to get in his opponent's face and just start doing damage. Now, Genji, he's so flexible, right? That's kind of the big reason as to why he gets picked so often, is he can fit in a lot of comps. He's almost never a bad pick. But the thing I want you to recognize here is that Genji, with the way his kit functions, and specifically with the way Swift Strike functions, it's very rare that he can go from the tactical mode, from the brawling mode to the tactical mode. So this is typically what a Genji fight looks like. You're in the tactical mode. You're as if you were a soldier. You're poking, ideally from an annoying angle. And then once a fight is ready to start, based on numerous factors, that's when you go in and you start brawling. Now, again, because of the way Swift Strike works, you're probably not going to go back to this tactical mode. So it's really important then, and this is probably the most important part of this video. It's really important that you pick that moment to go in from tactical to brawling correctly. You have to take a lot of things into consideration, and that's ultimately, in my opinion, what makes a really good Genji player, is he knows when he's allowed to go in, because once he goes in, he's basically saying, I'm confident I can win this fight, or that my team can win this fight, that we can win this fight, or that we're going to trade advantageously because maybe they're just trying to bait out a whole bunch of ultimates and whatever the case may be. So, and that being said, there are exceptions. There are moments where you can find someone who's alone and assassinate them, get in, get out, and then you go back to the tactical style. Yeah, sure, that does happen. But the vast majority of the time, as Genji, when you go in, you're in, and you're not really going to get out. So this is kind of like a one-way street. So Yeah, so tactical to brawling, that's going to happen all the time. You need to master that. Don't worry so much about, going back out to the tactical mode, so to speak. So again, you need a compelling reason to go in. That's what we're gonna look at today. We're gonna look at the whys. That's gonna be a theme of this video, is why. When we look at the footage, we're gonna analyze that moment of when we go in and talk about why we went in. So disclaimer, I'm not a Genji main, but I get lots of requests for Genji tips. So for the sake of the video, I decided to spend the last couple days compiling footage, playing a lot of Genji, and hopefully this will make sense. Cool. All right. Now, another theme that's going to come up a lot is angles. Angles. I'm always looking for those annoying angles. So you can see here, whoops, 1 second. All right, I think that worked. Yeah, cool. As you can see here, most of my team is here. Let me change the color. Most of my team is here, and I'm here. Now, this is great because it's two completely opposing angles of attack. This is great. They're going to be shooting this way, and I'm going to be shooting this way. This is going to pull our opponents into two different directions. And what you're going to see here is, like we talked about earlier, this concept of this, I'm going to be leveraging this I'm going to be utilizing this tactical play, and then my teammates are going to reap the benefits. They're going to leverage that and get a win out of that. And I'm not going to do a whole lot. I'm going to do very, very little in this clip, as you'll see. Okay. Poking. I'm missing basically everything. D.Va commits a shift, a booster to me. That's awesome. Then I match it with the defensive swift strike. So I'm trying to get away. And by the way, we'll talk about that more a little bit later as well. This idea of defensive swift strikes, very important for Genjis to learn when to use this. In this situation, I would see a lot of Genjis. I would bet that they would go in for a fight here, which is which is the exact opposite of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to hold this space, keep this angle for my team, and just be a nuisance, just be a pest. Cool. So left clicking, we're left clicking. I'm absorbing this discord, and not just, so far I've absorbed two abilities directly, the shift from D.Va and the discord, but also camera time, like literally time spent where my opponents are looking at me and shooting at me, and I'm just, taking mind share. I'm taking a part of their mind where they're having to think about me, and that's important. So just left clicking, and look, like, obviously I can't take credit for this, but I can guarantee you that another Genji in my shoes, who maybe would be playing over here, would be far less effective, because these 2 kills Junkrat got, much less likely if the D.Va was there to eat that or to get into Junkrat's face. But she was not in Junkrat's face. She was in my face. That opened up space for him to work in. So it's great. And you could also argue that Genji can also fight in this area too. I see a lot of Genjis open up on this building. I think that's okay, but I think this position here that I have is superior. So again, not doing a whole lot, just left clicking. But as you can see in the kill feed, we are winning this fight for sure. So now it's time to go in. So going back to that why. Now is the time to go in. But I do it slowly. I reload, take the time to reload. I take the time to get a health pack. And now I'm just gonna walk in. I'm not scared. I can go in, I can commit that swift strike because I know that this fight is won. I can commit this second one. Again, this fight at this point is already won. I'm not scared. It's just cleanup duty. And that's it. So notice how this brawling part of this fight was really easy, because and I need it to be easy because, again, I'm not a very good Genji. So that's kind of the takeaway. So let's move on to the next one. 1340. Okay. So right here, I love this flanking path. Such a good flanking path for Genji. I'm poking. Notice how, well, a couple things. I'm level with my opponents, which is great. It makes landing shots easier, particularly for projectile-based heroes, with the exception of Pharah because she has splash, but that's a different topic. And notice how I'm also poking at Mercy. If I did not have my Dragonblade, I would probably be going for Roadhog here. He's an ult battery, everybody knows that. But I do have Dragonblade, so I'm prioritizing Mercy here instead. Cool. Again, I got the Discord. I'm absorbing time, pressure. I'm creating pressure. Now, I'm just poking all day. Now, Pharah comes to me. She uses her shift, and so that to me, I'm about to use Dragonblade. And again, this is the... Oh, and also, sorry, earlier I forgot to mention the angle. I had a similar to the previous video, or the previous clip, a different angle. This helps so much. It pulls your opponents into different directions, and I can't stress how important that is as a flanker like Genji. So, cool. Okay, why? Why am I about to use this Dragonblade? Well, I have 18 shurikens. That's pretty good. Full health. All my cooldowns. Well, I just used deflect, but I'm about to go in now. And she used shift, so I know I can kill her. I'm reasonably confident. She could probably concussive blast from this building that's on her right. So you could argue that maybe I should have waited for that or done something differently, but I'm fairly confident I can still kill her. So I go in and get the kill. And that's it. I mean, I basically did my job here. I got a kill, created a ton of pressure, and I'm about to die right now, but I already did my job. And a pretty decent one. Granted, you know, again, my brawling's not good. I should have been able to play this fight better. But we actually do win this fight, and it was in large part due to all the pressure I was able to create and getting that kill. So, and also, I think I also got the transcendence in response. Let's watch that again. Yeah. So also the transcendence. So a pretty good trade overall. Cool. Let's move on to the next one. It's on Hanamura. This is another one of my favorite flanking paths. I'm going to go into this window. I'm going to get a quick lay of the land. I see Soldier. I see Zen. You can see Mercy is attached also at the end of that. In the middle of the screen, you see Reinhardt and Zarya. Cool. A lot of players would actually just do what I'm about to do. This, Swift Strike to this left side, without looking. Don't do that. You want to get a quick idea of what's to the right, because maybe there's something you didn't expect. Maybe there's like a bastion. Well, if there was a bastion, you'd probably still do this. But in general, this is a really good skill to have on all the maps where you check kind of what your opponents are doing and then you decide what to do. So a very important skill. Here didn't matter so much, but still important to do this. Okay. Now I'm going to make a small error here. I'm going to jump at the end of the Swift Strike. There it is. And notice how much damage I just took. So that was a bit silly. I should have just gone onto this building and not jumped and just waited and then maybe peeked a bit to poke, but that jump was pretty sloppy. Cool. So I go back down, I get this health pack, and at this point I'm safe. I'm fairly safe back here. Now I'm going to crouch and listen for this soldier. I don't hear him, so I keep going. Now this part is so easy. I'm just going to be a pest. Again, I'm a pest. I'm looking for that angle, trying to get away from my teammates, to get a different angle going, and just poke, poke, poke. And look at that. Soldier just dropped, and definitely because of me. So this is excellent, excellent. This is a way, again, like we talked about earlier, to manipulate opponents' movements. I'm just poking, I'm poking, I'm poking. This is so easy. Like, I'm not worried about anything. I kind of messed that up. I should have hugged that wall a little bit tighter, so that was a bit of a... I wasn't consciously doing that. It wasn't disrespect. That was actually me just playing poorly. I should have been able to get around that corner a bit tighter and not take so much damage from the soldier. So I'm going to go and get some health pack. So we'll skip that because that's boring. I healed up, and now I'm going to do the same thing. Go back to poking, 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 poking. Now, based on the what's progressed in the fight so far, our Widow should be coming back from point soon. Should be at the point roughly by now. Well, not at the point, but, you know, by the gate. And it's roughly an even fight, except that we just burned res. But we're in, as you're gonna see right now, like right here. This is, I believe this is Pharmacy, and I think this is Zen, and I got like Soldier in here, and someone else is over here. So my team's in a reasonable place to fight. Now, what you're gonna see here again is the why I'm about to commit to this fight. I have a lot of ammo, 21, have all my cooldowns, full health, and what you're gonna see is Soldier's gonna get low, and that's the critical component. So right here, we start poking, and you see he's super low. Unfortunately, my teammate cleaned him up first, so I didn't get the reset. That's okay. But again, this is the why. I'm committed to this fight now. Now it's time to brawl. That being said, in this position, I actually could have backed off. Sorry, not back off, but I could actually just stayed here and left click a little bit longer, and maybe some right clicks at this distance. But I'm pretty confident we can win this fight, so I go for Brawling. And to be fair, there's not a whole lot of time left to win this fight, because, you know, both teams are heavily committed into this fight. So this isn't really the time for tactical play. This is more of a time to just win the fight now, because the fight is so close. So this is not the time to be going tactical. This is time to start fighting. Cool. And as you can see, I suck. I rely on this health pack. Thankfully, it's there. Even if Widow hadn't killed the Reinhardt, I would have been able to clean him up. As long as that health pack was there, that was actually going to be a pretty easy kill onto Reinhardt. Cool. So fighting. Again, I'm not very good at fighting. I Actually, I die here. I'm going to get res, and we are going to clean this up. But let me get the next clip ready. Cool. So, 217. Cool. So anyways, fighting. We eventually do clean this up. Yada, yada, yada. Blah, blah, blah. Brawling. Brawling's fun. And I'm not very good at it, as you can see. But we do get this point. Okay, let's go to the next one. So, I killed this Tracer. And you can see Farah just died. And she's about to get rezzed. Right there. But that's actually not the important part. Because that actually doesn't really matter to me. What matters to me is that is two key things. So again, I'm about to commit. Why? And going back to angles. Notice how, again, I have a different angle for my team. I'm separated from them. And I'm making sure that our opponents have to deal with multiple angles, constantly turn around, and cause chaos for them. So very important. Okay, going back to the why. I'm about to commit. Why? First reason, I just killed Tracer out of line of sight from Mercy. Notice where Mercy is. She's in the middle of the screen. There's no way she's going to come res this Tracer. And if she does, I'm almost certainly going to kill her. Unless she brings backup. In which case, if she does, okay, cool. I'm down to tango. I'm down to absorb that many resources, right? And I have Dragonblade. Cool. Second reason. So one is Tracer's dead and she can't be rezzed. Cool. Two is Zen is totally out of position. This is a total checkmate moment. If I Dragonblade, I'm probably going to kill him. If not, then sure, he's going to Transcendence. In which case, I can either go up and kill everyone because they're out of range of Transcendence, or they're going to all drop down because they're scared of Dragonblade, in which case my team gets the higher ground for pretty much free. So this is just a win-win-win all around. Zen probably should have been playing on this corner, or even the high ground up here. You know, just as a side note, he didn't, so I'm going to punish him for this. Cool. I go up, start putting damage up here, and the rest is history. I mean, I'm not even doing that great of a job, but it's enough. Again, the tactical play. And this was off the back of that kill from Tracer. So that was nice, but you know, it's making sure that you're taking, what I'm trying to show is that you're making sure that you're taking into consideration as many factors as possible. And we eventually get this, so. All right, next one. All right, let's go to this one. 630. Okay. Now this one, again, different angle. I'm trying to poke from a different angle. This one is kind of a funny clip because... Oh, actually, wait. Oh, yeah. So, the why here, again, simple. The Graviton. However, she whiffed it, so I make the best of a bad situation, and I just go in. Yeah. Well, this one was tricky. I could have also not Dragonbladed, but I was feeling reasonably confident. And it was also a bonus that Zarya was able to give me that bubble. Dragonblade with bubble is so nasty. Because as you can see here, he can't flashbang me. Nothing he can do. Yeah. So, and then we clean that up. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, let's move on to the next one on Numbani. This is a very important one. I think this one highlights a lot of good, disciplined, tactical play. So we just get the point. And the opponents, we didn't get a nasty stagger on them, so they're actually going to be set up for this Streets phase pretty well. Watch how it gets pulled apart. Okay. So, cool. I see them. I'm going to start putting in my left clicks. Now, notice how there's 4 on the ground and Zarya on the high ground. So 5. So they are set up pretty well for this. Granted, more of them should be on the high ground, but still, I need to respect this. Again, a different angle from my teammates. They're by the cart. They're pushing it now. And now I'm just going to claim this space, this room. I'm going to try to contest it, make them work for it, because I don't want them to have it. I'm respecting the Discord. I'm wall climbing, making sure he can't get an easy kill on me. I'm nervous that they might come, in which case, if they do, I have options. I can probably Swift Strike away. Worst case, I can maybe pull out a Dragonblade, depending on who comes and who doesn't. So I have lots of mobility available to me. Cool. So, but still, I'm respecting my opponents because they are nearby. That being said, my teammates are coming very soon. As you can see, there's 2 on the cart, and they're very close to me. They're to the right. So this is a pretty decent position. I'd like to go deeper, but the opponents are not letting me. So that's a key thing to understand too, is that I would like to get more space, but my opponents, I meant to say my opponents, they are not letting me. because they're set up in a decent position. So again, going back to this concept of respect, I'm getting as much ground as they are giving up, but no more. Okay, I hear the volley come out from Zenyatta, so he just used it, I think, right? Let me turn up the volume a little bit more. I think we just heard it, and for that matter, I heard him charging up too. Yeah, there you can see him. Let me turn up the volume even more. Yeah, there it is. So I'm waiting for that. Cool. Turn the volume back down. And now here, as you just saw, McCree was on the right side of the screen. Right there, you can see on the right side. This is another situation. Why am I committing? 18 shurikens, full health bar, all cooldowns, Dragonblade, Zen's out of position. This is a clear sign to go. And critically, McCree is not near for a flashbang. That is important. Okay, cool. He uses the Transcendence. I'm okay with that trade. Right there, you saw the flashbang just missed. I was cutting it very close, but still good. Just barely out of range. And I'm out of here. I'm gonna Swift Strike away. They come. Okay, cool. I'm out. I respected that. But with all this chaos that I've caused, Winston and Zarya came for me. Zen came for me. He had to burn Transcendence. McCree also had to burn his flashbang. They're all out of swords. Half of them were probably going back. Half of them were coming to me. I'm oversimplifying, but I think you get the idea. And this sets up D.Va for a really nice self-destruct. Lots of cooldowns and mindshare and attention was given to me, sets up my teammates for a really nice play. So again, this goes back to the concept of creating these plays in a tactical manner, letting my team leverage that and make plays off that if it's not necessarily me, because in some of these plays it is me, but you know, cleaning up the fight. But a lot of times it's my teammates because my brawling's not very good. So what's interesting here is that this wasn't really a fight in the normal sense, right? Like, this was kind of more of like a, I don't want to say a slaughter, but it was kind of like a bait. We put them in a position where we just, in one move, we just destroyed them, and we took all of Streets phase in a situation where our opponents actually set up very well. I mean, relatively, because a lot of times on Streets phase, teams will lose it because they get a nasty stagger, and then they can't ever really come back from it. Then before they know it, they're fighting, you know, when the card's almost at the end, and they get one good fight, and maybe they lose or maybe they don't, and that's it. Whereas here, our opponents actually were set up pretty well, but we picked them apart with tactical play. And again, in one fell swoop, we took all of Streets phase. So I hope I'm driving this point home. All right, let's look at King's Row. Right here, 249. Okay. This one, so this is an example. So this is actually this goes against pretty much the rest of this video. The reason I want to show this is actually that this wasn't a very good play, even though it's one of those, you know, highlight Reddit plays or whatever you want to call them. So let's watch this. So, okay, let's break that down. Right here, as you can see from the kill feed, we're actually falling back. We're not necessarily in a position to win this. I take some damage. Now, she gives me the bubble, and if it wasn't for this bubble, it's hard to say, because I think in the moment, it's solo queue, I probably would have gone in because she committed Graviton Surge, so why the heck not, right? At the very least, commit a Swift Strike, right? Actually, yeah, there's actually no world where a reasonable player would not Swift Strike on this Graviton, especially with the bubble. But even without the bubble, I probably still would do it. So, I get the Dragonblade. The bubble's about to time out if it hasn't already, like maybe soon. Yeah. So, this play, these are the kind of plays that you do not want to rely on as a Genji player. These are the kinds of plays that's kind of high risk, high reward, because there's a good chance I use Dragonblade here and then lose it immediately from a flashbang. Although in this case they didn't have a McCree here, but maybe you get sleep darted or maybe you just get killed. So while these plays are really fun to watch and it's really cool, they're not the kind of plays that for people like me who want to play Genji and don't really have the best mechanics that you want to rely on. So I wouldn't really worry about these kinds of plays too much. I would be focusing more on the tactical side of things, even though it looks really cool. All right, last piece of footage before we jump into a wrap up. Let's go to Anubis. All right. Okay. So this is just a small example of how to, again, going back to the why of committing. Right here, notice how, again, I don't really trust my mechanics. I have 159 health. Baby Diva, maybe she's full, I think, so she's at about 150. I have 9 bullets, and I don't have deflect because I just used it. So I'm going to wait and reload at the very least. And I'm just going to wait for her to come onto the point before I attack. Let her get as close as possible and win that fight so that it's nice and easy. Okay, she contests. I jump on her, and this fight goes so much easier. A lot of Genjis in this situation would have seen Baby Diva immediately without the deflect jump on her, and I can guarantee you a lot of, especially at high levels, Baby Diva can kill Genjis without deflect, especially if they're not at full health. I was at 159. So, especially someone like me who doesn't have the best mechanics in the world, if I just jumped on that Diva immediately without thinking, there's a good chance she actually kills me. And obviously that's no good, right? So I take into account all the factors. I saw that, I was low on health, didn't have all my bullets, didn't have deflect. I thought, you know what? Let her come to me. So these are the kind of tactical plays you want to consider as Genji. It's not always just go, 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 brawl, brawl, brawl. Take a moment to consider everything. And as time goes on, you will get faster and faster at making these decisions. So start slow and build fast. Because a lot of times players want, especially, at lower levels, Genji players, they want to just go and they see their favorite Genji player in the world and they just want to be like that, and they just go in without thinking and start fighting. And there's a lot of tactical considerations to take as Genji. And when you don't take those into consideration, unless you have like super sick mechanics, you're going to flop. But again, the best players in the world, they have both. They have super sick mechanics, and they're very very intelligent about the way they approach fights. As this one example, which maybe, again, it's not super sexy or flashy, but it shows that, you want to take even small things like this, you want to take them into consideration and take it slowly. And with time, you'll be faster and faster. Okay, let's look at some pictures really quick. Try to make this, I know this video is dragging a bit, so let's keep it going. Genji, no secret, he does really well with nano boost, sound barrier, and graviton. He can Dragonblade really well with those. Not a whole lot to say about that. However, Dragonblade with bubble, that top right icon, with Zarya bubble, holy cow, is that just one of the best combos in the game. A Dragonblading Genji with Zarya bubble is so scary, arguably scarier than nano boost and sound barrier, because you can't flashbang him, you can't hook him, sleep dart him, etc., 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 can't discord him. So there's a lot of value in that. That's probably I don't know. I just want to just point out that Zarya and Genji have incredible synergy, not necessarily from graviton, but definitely from because everything synergizes well with graviton. Well, lots of things, but with bubble, that Dragonblade bubble is just so nasty. Zenyatta orbs, not a whole lot to say there. Obviously, Genji with harmony is disgusting. And when Genji sees a discorded target, he should almost always jump on that target, because Genji's one of the few characters in the game that is like hyper mobile. So he can mid-fight change who he wants to attack. He sees a discord. Okay, sure, I'm gonna throw some shurikens and swift strike, and that alone is gonna be a ton of damage. Hopefully your teammates contribute, and then that target's probably gonna melt. Okay. Let's talk about. Oh, and just one thing. I have a theory that Orisa and Genji have really good synergy with the mini grav. Like, if she can throw that mini grav into back lines and Genji can time it, it sounds like it might be kind of hard, but I don't think it would be. If Genji can time his dive with that mini grav, that would be super sick. But I don't have enough data to support that, so I'm not going to make that claim quite yet. But I have a suspicion that Orisa and Genji could be a really nasty combo. And, and Dragonblade and mini grav could be really good too. Just one of those things people haven't really perfected yet. Okay. Large targets like Roadhog and Diva are ult batteries, huge ult batteries. Roadhog more so, because he's less mobile. So when you see them, don't be afraid to left click them from a distance and build up that Dragonblade. Zenyatta, similarly in that he's smaller, but he's got a nice squarish, roundish hitbox, and he's also immobile. However, don't disrespect him. If a Zenyatta is reading your movements and discording you, he is going to be very hard to deal with. Do not just sloppily engage onto him. As a Zenyatta main, Genjis who just sloppily who engage onto me in a sloppy manner, I tend to punish them the most. It's the ones that kind of poke at me for a while with left clicks and then jump on me are the ones that are more deadly. But still, as Genji, you should be able to win that matchup most of the time if you play it tactically. Okay, this right side, Torbjorn and Orisa. That represents static defense comp, so it doesn't necessarily have to be these two. Any static defense comp where they can't really move too much, Genji, you should be able to find an angle to poke at them and wear them down. So nasty to deal with. So look for that. Okay, be cautious against Zarya. While she is your best friend, she also can totally just destroy a Dragonblade with a really well-timed bubble onto your target. So watch out for that. Definitely wait for... And actually, I'm gonna... Actually, I think I forgot to talk about this. Oh no, I'm gonna talk about that later in the video. Okay, cool. Pharmacy. A lot of players I see, they complain, especially when pro players play the Genji into a pharmacy. There's a common complaint. They say, oh, why? Like, why would you be Genji in a pharmacy? The logic kind of goes like this. Pharmacy, or actually Pharah specifically, but also pharmacy, they can't really deal with Genji very well. Like, right? He's kind of a hard target to hit in general. And also, Genji can't deal with Pharah very well. Outside of Dragonblade. With Dragonblade, he can. And that's kind of the basis of this. So they can't really they don't excel at dealing with each other very well. And so they're kind of in a race to make a bigger impact on the battlefield. And, you know, whoever does it first kind of wins. And Genji also, like I mentioned earlier, with Dragonblade, he actually can put a lot of pressure onto them and potentially get kills onto one of them or both. But so then the logic is, because they kind of cancel each other out in that sense, and because Genji has the edge with a well-timed Dragonblade, that's why you'll sometimes see professional players play the Genji into a pharmacy comp and still do well, and sometimes they don't, but it's not necessarily because of the Genji, where they're just... Because a lot of players will be like, oh, like, you know, why Genji? Like, he's not focusing on the Pharah. Well, yeah, that's kind of the plan, is to actually kind of, quote-unquote, ignore the Pharah, so to speak. But that's kind of a really silly way to look at it. Anyways, enough about that. So the reason I mention this is because in solo queue, if you are playing a Genji into a pharmacy, don't fall into the mistake of your teammates saying, oh, you know, Genji, kill the Pharah all the time. It's not necessarily your job to do that. Sometimes it is, but not always. And yeah, and you know, they might tilt and ask you to play hit scan. Yeah, maybe you should do that, but I wouldn't necessarily agree with them. Okay, Winston. Winston, obviously, huge counter to Genji. Make sure he doesn't walk up to you for free. Make him use his jump to get to you, because if he walks up to you, he can follow your swift strike and kill you. So work on that. McCree, obviously you got to respect that flashbang. Not a whole lot to say here. One side note I want to mention is that with that patch that made ultimate charge consume instantly, you want to be very careful with your Dragon Blades around McCree. You always need it to be, but there was this catch in the older patch where if you did Dragon Blade and he flashbanged you, sometimes your opponents McCree's allies would bust a Transcendence or a Sound Barrier, and then you would get to keep your Dragon Blade. Sometimes. And that was always just a pain in the butt. So that was actually kind of a valid tactic. But now these days, you have to be much more careful about Dragon Blading around McCree. And I think the game is much healthier for it. Okay, maps. I picked these maps that I think Genji really, really excels on. Obviously, there's parts of a lot of these other maps that he actually does really well too. But in my opinion, these 4 are maps where he excels like the entire time on offense and defense, just in general, like, you know, for the vast majority of the map. So again, there are lots of these other maps where, yeah, Genji does excel in key parts in certain, you know, on offense or defense in certain parts, but in general, I think these 4 maps he really does excel on. But to that note, especially Dorado, by the way, which we're going to talk about in a moment. On that note, I don't think Genji is a bad pick on any map necessarily. I think that's kind of what makes him so flexible, is he's never truly just like an awful pick. He's so flexible, and I think it's partly due to this duality that we're talking about, where he can, you know, switch styles and he can perform in so many ways. Okay, let's talk about angles. You can see these Dorado screenshots on the bottom. Dorado, going back to it, I think on attack, Genji is so deadly on it. On this first screenshot on the left, you can see there's that yellow wall. He can go over it and poke from there. Second point, he can go around church and poke from here, as we saw in that clip from earlier. Third point, he has this ability to wall climb onto this area on the left. So good. Take advantage as Genji of all of the space of a map and poke from those angles. Genji can he is yeah. I just want to say how useful he can be played in this tactical manner, and it makes me sad a lot of times when certain players don't utilize this aspect of Genji. Okay, let's talk about walls and elevation and verticality. A lot of times people will say, oh, Genji, he likes verticality, he likes walls to climb, etc., etc. And while that is true, I feel like a lot of times people fail to recognize why that's the case. Because if we go to this little drawing that I've made here, Genji wants to be on the same level of his opponents, right? They only have two options, left and right. When he's above them, and this is true for hitscan too, but I think it's especially difficult for projectiles that don't have splash, like Pharah. And especially since Genji's shurikens are kind of slow. When you're above them, they have four directions, and even if it's like a 45, 60 degree angle, it's so much harder to nail those projectiles, those shurikens as Genji. So a lot of times, the verticality, in my opinion, it's more about, and the wall climbing, it's more about having access to flanking paths that other heroes do not. And so he can get into these positions very quickly, very safely, relatively, and just be such a nuisance. So in my opinion, that's where the verticality and the wall climbing and the walls come from. Like when people talk about Genji, because they like to talk about these concepts, it's not so much about being in a position that you're high and shooting low. It's about getting into a position where you can shoot on the same level. And I'm kind of generalizing here, but I think that's an important concept to be aware of at least. Okay, let's talk about vision. Infrasight and Sonic Arrow. Those everyone on the opponent's side has access to once they're out in play. However, I think these other three are important too. Discord. Only Zen has access to it, although it does have a little purple orb or whatever. But anyways, Venom Mine, only Widow has access to it. And health bars, only you have access to players that you've recently hit, with the exception of Ananade, which I think shows it for the entire team. So the reason I mention this is because I want players, especially Genji players, because if your opponents are good, they will track your movements. I want you to be aware of vision, and I want you to be... I just want you to be vigilant. So, why do I bring this up? In the USA versus Korea match, watch this. Okay, so right there, let me show you that one more time. Boom, right there, Genji. He does that little juke onto the next to the wall. That's good. He should have done that 1 or 2 more times, each time getting closer and closer to the wall. So this was a bit of a lack of discipline, and it wasn't even a headshot. It was actually a body shot plus the Zenyatta shots. So this was a pretty big, I don't know if it was disrespect or maybe it was nerves, because obviously this was an extremely high-profile match, but a lot of professional players, you will see them when they do that juke, they'll do it a few times, and you absolutely should. You need to respect it. USA knew that they had the infrasight. They needed to just be, this Genji needed to be a little bit more patient, and he would have known once the Zenyatta orbs went off, and then he could have maybe peeked, or maybe he would have baited out a left click from Widow, and then he could maybe peek. So this should have been taken a little bit more slowly. But again, high profile match. I can't fault this play. This stuff is hard. Overwatch is hard, but it's cool to see even professional players make these kinds of mistakes, which are fairly, I don't want to say obvious, but are mistakes that can be easily identified and corrected. Cool. All right. Last slide. Big blades. This is the #1 question I get all the time. So how do you get big blades? And this is, I think, the best way I can break it down. The first 2 steps are setup. Tactical play, like we talked about. Get into those, use the wall climb to get into position, maybe swift strike to get into position. Get those angles that are annoying. Use the tactical play, poke your opponents, get their health bars down, get their positions, put them in bad positions, make them burn their cooldowns. Okay. Now the thing about Dragonblade is that it is a hyper mobile ultimate. So the position part of that, of the poking, doesn't matter so much, although it is nice. The more important part, however, is the cooldowns. Burning, like we talked about, those Lucio boops, those flashbangs, those Zarya bubbles. The more of those things you can burn, the more likely you are to get a really nice big Dragonblade. So again, start with the setup. Poke, poke, poke with tactical positioning. Wait for critical cooldowns to get burned. Or maybe your teammate will graviton, sure, but I feel like those are generally easy Dragonblades to achieve. The harder ones are when your teammates don't have something to set you up so easily. So in this case, you have to set it up yourself. So wait for those critical cooldowns to get burned. With your poking, you will help force those out. Cool. Once that's into play, now it's step 3, which is all about execution. It's making sure that you're managing your swift strikes and your double jumps correctly. So how do you do that? Let's look at some examples. I have 3 quick clips that we will get through very quickly, I promise. 1:30. Okay, so let's skip ahead a little bit. Whatever. Okay, so Dragonblade here. Okay. Notice how I just tagged this McCree. Now, all I needed was a left click, but I very stupidly left click and then, so swing and then swift strike. Very dumb. This is unacceptable. Yeah, so let's look at another example, which is also not so great. This one is more nuanced, however. And actually, I see this mistake at the professional level as well. It's when you swift strike without knowing, when you swing without knowing how much health your opponent has. So watch. Okay, I pulled out the blade. You can see Baby Diva right here. I'm going to swing and then swift strike her, which is not smart. So as you can see, she was already dead. So the takeaway here is try to be aware of how much health your opponents have before you commit that swift strike. And even more so against characters like Baby Diva and Tracer, who have such little health. There's a good chance that swing might just kill them, especially if they're discorded or you have a right click from Mercy. It's okay to take just that little fraction of a second to see if they died and then commit the swift strike, because the swift strike should kill them, because 120 plus 50, 170 health. Okay. Last clip. All right, so let's talk about jumps, managing your jumps correctly. 15:01. Okay. All right. So here, fighting, we're brawling. Cool. Okay. Okay, so I just use a double jump to kill her. Now notice how I wait to land so I get the reset on the double jump so I can kill Mercy. Cool. So, the takeaway here, whatever. The takeaway here is be aware of your swift strikes and your jumps, your double jumps. If you can just be cognizant of those, over time you will get better with your Dragonblades. And at first you're going to be really slow, but as time goes on you're going to get faster and faster because it's just going to be instinct. But at first you're going to have to learn and be aware of these things, and then as you get better, as long as you're not wasteful with them, you will get really big Dragonblades. Okay, cool. I hope this video was helpful. If you liked it, please like the video and please subscribe. Thank you.